Oh my gosh. It's a horrible way to start. Okay, here we go. We're going to read Oliver Twist. All right. First chapter. About the author. The author of this is Charles Dickens. He is also the guy that wrote A Christmas Carol. So he was born in Landport in Portsea, England in 1812. He was the second of 8 children. His father was a clerk and moved the family to London when Charles was 10 years old. 2 years later, he had to leave school to help support his family. So at 12 years old, he had to quit school and go get a job. But Charles read constantly in his spare time, just like you guys. He also wandered around the poor working class districts and the slum areas where the criminals hung out. These places and their inhabitants were described vividly in his novels. So what he experienced as a kid is what he wrote about later. In 1832, Dickens, who had since returned to school, became a newspaper reporter. 4 years later, he published Pickwick Papers, his first major novel. Oliver Twist, which what we're reading, appeared in 1838. Other leading works included David Copperfield, A Christmas Carol, we know that one, Great Expectations, and A Tale of Two Cities. Okay, these are just people we're going to read about, but we'll learn about them. All right, here is our first picture. Oh, sad. A mother dies in childbirth. A long time ago, and still today sometimes, having a baby was rough on you, and a lot of women used to die because there weren't lots of modern medicine. Okay, chapter 1. In the workhouse of a parish in England, on a date long forgotten, a baby boy was born. His mother died in childbirth. The mother was so young and pretty. Who was she? Asked the doctor. I don't know, replied the nurse. Someone found her lying in the street last night and brought her inside. She must have walked a long way because her shoes are all worn out, but no one knows where she came from. Well, I guess she wasn't married, said the doctor. There's no wedding ring on her finger. With that, the doctor left the baby in the care of the workhouse people who looked after orphans, such as that baby, who was named Oliver Twist. Before he was a year old, Oliver was sent to another workhouse. He spent the next 8 years there with 25 other children. Some were troublemakers, and some, like Oliver, simply had no parents to take care of them. Mrs. Mann, who ran the workhouse, received money from the parish, the church, to buy food and clothes for the children. However, she kept most of the money for herself. The only time she bathed the children and gave them enough to eat was when an official from the parish church came to inspect the workhouse. Oh, so sad. Such an inspection took place on Oliver's 9th birthday. The child was thin and pale and always hungry and unhappy. The parish official, Mr. Bumble, came to see Mrs. Mann about him. Mr. Bumble was a fat, middle-aged man with a bad temper. So, Oliver Twist is 9 years old today? See, there's a picture. That must be Mr. Bumble giving Mrs. Mann some money for food and clothes for Oliver. Yes, replied Mrs. Mann. Do you know that the parish offered a big reward for information leading to his father or some other family member? We never discovered to whom he belongs. Where did he get the name Oliver Twist? Asked Mrs. Mann. I made it up myself, said Mr. Bumble. I name all of our orphans in alphabetical order. The one before him was S, so I called him Swubble. This one was T, so he was Twist. I have names picked out all the way to Z. Well, Mr. Bumble, why do you ask about Oliver today? He's too old to stay here, Mrs. Mann. I've come to take him back to the workhouse where he was born. So Oliver was given a slice of bread, then dressed in a simple outfit and a brown cloth cap. He followed Mr. Bumble to the new workhouse. There, Oliver was brought before a committee of 10 men. And there they go, off to another workhouse. He's got his hat and his bread. What's your name, boy? Growled the chairman of the committee. Oliver Twist, sir. I guess you know that you're an orphan. What's that, sir? That means you have no mother or father and have been raised by the parish. Oliver began to cry. He's only 9. Stop crying, ordered the chairman. You should say your prayers and thank the good people of the church who feed you. But I don't know how to pray. What you need, boy, is a good trade. That means like a good job. There he is. Look at those jerks. Poor Oliver. Oliver cried himself to sleep that night on a hard, narrow bed. The next day he had his first meal house with the other children in the workhouse. Not only did the food taste terrible, but it never filled the children's stomachs. They had nothing but thin soup 3 times a day, with an onion twice a week and half a roll on Sundays. Oh, they must be starving. After 3 months of near starvation, the children drew lots. You know what that means? They means like they try to figure out who's going to do something. To decide who would ask for a second helping, Oliver Twist was chosen. Oliver picked up his empty bowl and went up to Mr. Limbkins, who was serving supper. Here's the famous line. "Please, sir, may I have some more?" the boy whispered. "What did you say?" roared Mr. Limbkins. There he is asking for some more. I don't think it's going to go well. "I would like some more supper." Mr. Limbkins screamed for Mr. Bumble. "That child will come to no good," said Mr. Bumble. "Put him in a room by himself. That will teach him to ask for too much to eat." The next morning, Mr. Bumble posted a sign outside the workhouse. It offered a sum of £5 to anyone who would take Oliver away and teach him a trade. Ugh, rough start for Oliver. End of chapter 1.